Hi, this is Phoenix, and soon I'm going to be coming out with my 12th book and my 5th book of poetry. It'll be called Wordless, and I wanted to talk about this book a little bit. So, the kind of teaser or quote unquote synopsis uh, to kind of summarize this book is in my in my poem Wordless, which is the final poem of the collection. And basically, I say, wherein I say nothing, there is nothing for me to say or feel or be. I am wordless. I guess that's why I have a book of poems. I am wordless. I guess that is why I am worthless. And I consider that to be an emotive passage, an emotive excerpt from the poem, and it really captures my theme for this book, which is, I would say, failure in some ways and shooting for something that you may not be able to reach. Wordless was written over the course of about a year, and I used a red notebook, which is why I like the idea of the cover as being red. And I remember the first two poems I wrote in kind of a manic frenzy and a very, um, well, it was an intense moment when I wrote those poems, and it was very spontaneous, and I just had like this outburst of energy and emotion and language, and I really thought that those two poems would really be a good start to a new book of poetry. The idea behind Wordless, as you can kind of understand from the excerpt that I read, is the idea that you sometimes feel as though you are wordless. You sometimes feel as though you are worthless because you may have all of this stuff to say, but nobody's really listening. And so people have often joked about this collection since I've been advertising it and promoting it. This idea that I should have just come out with a collection of blank pages, and I often joke that I was tempted to do that. But jokes aside, I think that is an interesting expression and analogy to the idea that I'm really getting at, which is that you may have a lot to say, but that doesn't mean people are listening. So there's a sense in which you are wordless. You have no words to say. And I really wanted to capture this emotion. Because I think that's been one of my fundamental experiences, which is that I haven't felt as though I've been taken seriously. I haven't felt as though people have listened to what I have to say, and so I've oftentimes felt wordless. The poems themselves in the collection are very experimental. I play a lot with language, for instance. I do some things with rhyme. Sometimes I will write in a way that is syntactically incorrect, grammatically incorrect, and I like doing that. Also, many of the poems feature a thought, and then that thought is interrupted by another thought, and so I don't even let myself finish. And experimenting with these techniques was really interesting for this collection, and I was really pleased with how it turned out because I didn't know exactly what I was going to say. I didn't know exactly what my words were going to be, but I wrote them and I wrote with them, or I worked with the ideas and I worked with the words and created very experimental and edgy poems from my perspective. I'm really proud of this collection. I don't think that it is quite as ambitious as my experimental and radical collection of poetry, Torque. But I do think it is one of my best works for sure because it is very sporadic, very spontaneous. It has its own flair, and there are many things that I think this collection of poetry accomplishes. I would also say that one thing that makes it cool is that these poems aren't always logical. Um, they don't always follow a logical pattern. The poems themselves are very poetic in the truest sense, where they're very spontaneous, as I've said, but also unpredictable. Kind of an outpouring of language, and I was really glad that I was able to do that. a lot of the words I use even are unorthodox as well. I have a poem called Indiscriminate X. I have a poem called, uh, let's see, I think it was Boredom Intellect. And that one, yeah, Intellect Boredom. And that kind of cues and signals the kind of experimentation that I'm doing with this collection. I would also say that the poem deals with many themes that I consider important to me and consider important to my canon, and that includes many different aspects of my life, such as mental illness, such as childhood, such as innocence. Just trying to work through these things and wonder what they are and wonder what they mean. There's a poem called Kill Switch that references one of my favorite characters, Kess, who is a bird in the book and movie A Kestrel for a Knave. Anyway, I hope that you will get a copy of this book. You can find my author page at amazon.com/author/phoenix_rises. And I hope that you're intrigued enough and tantalized enough to get your own copy. The book will be out very soon, in a matter of days, and I'm very excited to get this book out into the world. This is Phoenix, and thank you for listening.